What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Do you think Max Christie can be that athletic starting two guard that we need? So, you guys know how I feel about young basketball players. The main thing I worry about with Max Christie is his decision making, like when to pass, when to shoot, what to do when he drives past his man in a closeout situation, making reads in those situations. Those are the areas that I worry about Max Christie. I think he can shoot the ball fine, and I think he can defend. But the question is, can he make those decisions? One of the things that sucks for Max is Darvin Ham horribly misutilized him last year and played an inferior player in Cam Reddish over him all season long. And so from that standpoint, like Max didn't get the reps that you would have hoped that he would have gotten over the course of last season. But I would imagine that they'll start him at the 2 to start the season, or maybe not start because of the D'Lo situation, but they'll play him a lot at the 2 to start the season, and it will be up and down. And there are going to be highs and there are going to be lows where he's a young player making young player mistakes. That said, one of the things I think a lot about with the Lakers as it pertains to them needing to make a deal. Last year, their biggest weakness, as I've said on and on, is having athletes on the perimeter. So if Austin Reeves is a skill guard and LeBron James is a 40-year-old forward and Anthony Davis is a center, you really need athletes at the 2 and 3. And last year it was D'Lo and Taurean Prince, bad athletes, D'Lo and Rui who's big, but not particularly quick on the perimeter. And so this is where it gets interesting because you have 3 players that are kind of sort of getting added to the roster, even though they were on the roster last year. Max Christie was on the roster last year, didn't get used. That's an athletic 2 guard. Gabe Vincent was hurt all year last year. He is a guy that is a pretty solid point of attack defender. Jared Vanderbilt is one of the best point of attack defenders in the league and is super versatile and can guard many different types of ball handlers. Those guys were all, Gabe and Vando were unavailable for injury. Max Christie obviously was in the Darvin Ham doghouse because Darvin Ham just was playing bad basketball players or lesser basketball players for no reason, right? So like those guys getting added to the mix, if they're all healthy and ready to go, will help facilitate easier regular season basketball for the Lakers, right? However, can Gabe start? I think he can next to Austin as long as your 3 is awesome, and right now your 3 is not awesome. Can Vando start? I think he can as long as your 2 is awesome, but right now I don't think their 2 is awesome. And so in the long run, I still think the Lakers need upgrades of those types of roles. However, Max, Gabe, and Vando just being healthy and ready to go at the start of training camp will buy the Lakers the time to make that deal at the deadline. Again, if you think of it very simply, the Lakers have 2 draft picks to use, and you probably have 2 seasons left of LeBron playing at a pretty high level this year and maybe next year. What that means is whatever your next trade is, that has to be a hit. You got to get the right guys with that deal, right? And so being patient, I'm not against it as long as they actually do something at the deadline this year. What they cannot afford is to make the mistake they did last year, which is like, oh, D'Lo, he's playing really, really well. We're fine. We don't need to do anything. And then you roll into the Nuggets series with the exact same players and lose the exact same way. That can't happen, right? And so I'm okay with taking that group into the season because I do think Gabe, Vando, and Max can help in the 82 to facilitate some of that perimeter athleticism that they need. But at the deadline, I think you have to do something. And if they don't, I'd be really disappointed. Next question. Lakers trades. Do the following move the needle for you? Gabe Vincent in 2 seconds for Dennis Schroeder. D'Lo, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Cam Reddish, and a first-round pick swap for Bruce Brown. Christian Wood and a 2029 unprotected pick for Walker Kessler. I think that Bruce Brown could end up costing a legit first-round pick. We'll see. And with Danny Ainge, I'm always worried about what it's going to cost to get a player from him. Let's take it a little bit. Let's take it one at a time here. Gabe Vincent in 2 seconds for Dennis Schroeder. So part of me really wants to see Gabe Vincent with this team, healthy for a long time, because I think there's a lot of upside there with his point of attack defense, his ability to play off the ball. But one of the things that I underrated about Dennis Schroeder, last summer I said that when they swapped out Dennis for Gabe, I was like, I like this because this is a player that's not quite as good as Dennis, but maybe a better fit with the Lakers because he can play off the ball. That was the main reason why I was kind of pro that direction last summer. Where I became aware that I was wrong about that was the Laker roster had nobody that could beat anybody off the dribble other than LeBron James. And that becomes a problem in the half court when you're trying to get the defense in rotation and generate quality shots. If D'Lo needs a screen and if Austin needs a screen and Anthony Davis needs a post up, then you're in trouble, especially against switching teams, because now you're asking 40-year-old LeBron to do everything. And yeah, there were these moments like against the Clippers where they were switching everything and it got kind of bogged down, but then LeBron hit a bunch of threes and it was fine, right? But like that's a lot to ask. And so I've gained another layer of appreciation for Dennis as just a speed demon that can beat people off the dribble and how that can be a value in the half court to generate quality shots. So if I could turn Gabe Vincent into Dennis Schroeder, I would personally. But that's just because I've gained a new appreciation for Dennis. And again, I'll own up to the fact that that's the exact opposite of what I said last summer. But again, every year I've covered the league, I learn more and more about the game. Secondly, the D'Lo, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Cam Reddish for Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown, for me, is the classic example of an upgraded version of the Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, kind of Max Christie trio, the perimeter athletes that play the 2 or the 3, right? To me, Bruce Brown is a guy that can bring a lot of like the Alex Caruso-esque, like big athletic guard, point of attack defense, rebounding elements, transition elements, while also being a plus offensive player, which is something that you don't get out of Jared Vanderbilt, which is something that that I think could be an issue with Max Christie, even in terms of his decision making, right? So like really, really like Bruce Brown. Don't think you could do it for a first round swap, but that to me is really the direction that I would look to go. I would split the first round picks and use them separately and try to get 2 upgrades, either a really good backup center in a 2 or a 3, or maybe a 2 and a 3, right? Like those are the directions that I would look to go. Christian Wood, 2029 first round, unprotected first round pick for Walker Kessler. I would like Walker Kessler if I could get him for 1 pick. I just think that's kind of unrealistic. But I really, really like the idea of Anthony Davis playing alongside another rim protector for the very same reason that you're watching these Team USA second units be so good defensively. If you put Anthony Davis next to another rangy athlete, it allows him to play the low man position and to be underneath the basket, helping on pick and roll, closing out to shooters on the weak side, cleaning up the defensive glass. It's the classic look we saw in 2020 and 2021 with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee and Marc Gasol and Andre Drummond and those guys, right? Like that to me is a look that would benefit the Lakers. I just wouldn't give more than 1 pick for that type of deal. And if I was giving up a pick, I'd want a really good player, someone that I think Walker Kessler fits that bill, but there aren't many that fit that bill. I would prioritize using the first round picks to upgrade the perimeter athletes. LeBron and AD have been the 2 top performers on Team USA. KCP came out and said he felt the Lakers should have beaten them as they were up every game. Is this roster good enough to at least make the Western Conference Finals? And what is one move they can make to improve their fourth quarter execution? So we went over a lot of moves earlier. I thought the KCP quote was interesting because one of the big things that stood out to me about Denver is they just looked really tired throughout that entire playoff run. And I think that was interesting to see them kind of own up to that. The one other thing I wanted to respond to in this question is the fourth quarter execution piece. The Laker fourth quarter offense is fine. That was like a strength of theirs last year, actually. LeBron did a really good job making and taking shots in those situations. They had good flow. They ran good action. Crunch time offense was not an issue for the Lakers. It's actually been really strange for me to see JJ Redick and so many other people talking about the Lakers' fourth quarter offense. The number one issue with the Lakers in the fourth quarter, especially in the Nuggets series, was defense. What was that one game? The Jamal Murray game winner, the first one. I think it was game 2. I want to say that they scored on 9 of their last 10 possessions. They scored every single time down the floor. The Lakers were scoring too. That wasn't the issue. The Lakers can score. The Lakers were one of the best offenses in the league the entire second half of the season. That translated into the postseason. Their issue is they don't have perimeter athletes, so they always put an underqualified defender on Jamal Murray or whoever the best perimeter player is on the other team, and they can't get stops. That's why they lose. And so, the focus on the fourth quarter execution piece, JJ Redick will help it. They'll add some more wrinkles. They may even go up a level from where they were last year, but they're not going to start reaching another level as a fourth quarter execution team until they improve defensively in terms of their personnel. Last Lakers question before we move on. What do you think JJ can bring to the table that Darvin Ham couldn't? Even with the flawed team they had last year, if you swap JJ in at coach versus Denver, could you see a different outcome? I don't know if it would have been enough versus Denver. Again, I still think their defensive personnel was the main issue there. However, I put down 3 things that I think JJ could help with. 1, improved offensive execution. One of the things that I've really grown to appreciate over the last year is the importance of actually running action versus just freelancing. You Laker fans know Kranjis. He works for Tim Kranjis. He does that B-ball index statistical platform. But he did an amazing job last year cataloging the difference between the way the Laker offense functioned when they ran sets versus when they freelance, and it was a big gap. And clearly that data ended up making its way to JJ Redick because he's made specific mention of it. I'm not surprised at all. Kranjis does great work, and he probably should be working for a team somewhere right now, and hopefully he does eventually at some point. But I agree with him. I think he's hitting the nail on the head. I'm glad that JJ knows it. The Lakers need to stop freelancing so damn much, and they need to run more organized offense. JJ Redick will help with that. Secondly, listening to data. All of that information about playing Rui or Vando at the 3 instead of Taurean Prince was abundantly clear in the data from the early portions of the season. And in spite of repeated data, statistical evidence that showed that, Darvin Ham stuck with Taurean Prince way too long, and it cost them dearly as they went 3-10 after the in-season tournament and ended up in the play-in tournament. So just having a guy who's willing to look at the evidence and make the appropriate adjustments accordingly is going to be a huge asset. And then lastly, coaching possession by possession. Famously, Lakers fans referred to Darvin Ham as hot pockets because he would just stand on the sideline with his hands in his pockets. You watch all the great coaches. You watch Eric Spoelstra. You watch Ty Lue. You watch Mike Malone. You watch Steve Kerr. These guys are up. They're animated. They coach every possession. They demand excellence every possession. There is an emphasis on attention to detail. And if JJ Redick can bring that, I think that would be a substantial improvement for this team.